Hi, welcome back to the channel. Vandell here, co-founder of Black Swan Capitalists. So I want to talk about when to sell your investments or your crypto investments. So let's be honest, everybody talks about how to invest, how to research, what to buy, how to buy, and even how much to invest. All those details are important, but the truth is nobody really talks too much about when to sell and how to think about that. And I think it's ironic because the real money and sometimes the real peace of mind actually comes not from just buying, but knowing when to let go of something or when to sell. And now figuring out when to sell a winner is actually relatively a minor challenge. The truth is, the far tougher question is knowing when to sell something that isn't working and figuring out when to let go of something that's not doing well. That's far more challenging. But in this video, I want to talk about how to approach selling. So in general, selling overall, and more importantly, how to think about it strategically. So I think out of all the books, investing books that have been written, I think about less than 2% are actually about selling. They're more focused on buying, investing, when to invest, that kind of thing. And yet one of the biggest challenges investors face, especially retail investors, is knowing when to sell their investment or how long to ride the wave of something that is working and doing well. Because the truth is, this part of investing is very uncomfortable and it basically forces us to deal with our emotions, fear, greed, that kind of thing. So when do you sell? Do you sell when your portfolio is up, when it's doubled? Do you sell when things are down? Or do you just continue holding? Or the question, should you even sell at all? And there are a lot of questions that come up. So I'll just say this up front and be transparent with you guys, ladies and gentlemen. There's no right or wrong answer for when to sell. And there's no perfect formula, because there are certainly better ways to think about it and different ways to approach these questions, and that will help you decide if you should sell, and if you should, then when you should sell. So today, I just want to have an honest conversation about not just when to sell, but honestly how to think about it when you're faced with that decision. Because as I said, it's challenging, and I know that for a fact. So I'll share a few things that I've learned from personal experience and some things I've learned from some very smart people in the business, people I've worked with, people I've spoken to, people we've had on our show. And look, I've been in finance. I've worked in finance and banking for years. I've been investing in stocks since 2012 and crypto since mid to late 2019. And I've been through more than one altcoin season and a few bull runs. So currently we're in a bull run, but we haven't hit altcoin season yet. So we still have time. Now, let's start with this. There is no perfect answer to when should I sell my investments, okay? That's a fundamental truth, so make sure you understand that. Because the right time to sell any asset or investment you have it's 100% deeply personal, okay? It depends on many different things like your financial goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals, your time horizon, your age, your risk tolerance, and most importantly, your personal, financial, and life situation. And everybody's in a unique position. Because the truth is, what works for one investor might be completely wrong for the other person. So the reason I'm pointing that out is because that's why you should never try following someone else's exit plan or strategy without really understanding your own reasons and your why, because that's a big mistake. Again, because everybody's in a different position and situation. And so the first thing you need to understand is this. First of all, you shouldn't sell something just because it's up, okay? And you shouldn't sell something just because it's down. So I'll clarify that a little bit. What do I mean? I mean, just because an asset has gone up a lot doesn't mean it's time to get rid of it, okay, or sell it. And the reason is because, think about it like this. If it was a good investment to begin with, whether it's a stock, a crypto, strong fundamentals, real world use case, real utility, long-term growth potential, then maybe it still has much room to go much higher. So why would you sell it? Selling would basically mean you're walking away too early. That's basically what you're doing. And just because something is down, even if it's down a lot, 20, 30, 50, 90%, that also does not mean that you should sell either, just because something is down. Because think of it like this. If it was a good investment in the first place, maybe it's a better deal now because you're getting the same investment at a discount. It's the same asset at a discounted price. So that might actually mean that maybe it's a buying opportunity and not really a reason to sell the investment or your asset. So just a perspective that people should think about. But whether you sell or not depends on why you bought it in the first place, okay? And whether those reasons that you bought it in the first place are still valid or not. But selling based purely on price movement, just because it's up or down, without any real context or reasoning is not very clever, okay? Because price alone doesn't tell the full story. And you need to know your why. Your why. What specific reason do you need to sell for? So why do you want to sell? The next point is, let's focus and talk about real personal reasons to actually sell your investment or your asset, because there are completely valid reasons, okay? Let's be honest. Sometimes the reason to sell something has completely nothing to do with the asset at all, okay? And what I mean by that is there are perfectly valid reasons to sell something or to sell your investment that might have nothing to do with the investment itself. So for example, you may want to sell for personal goals, life changes, or personal financial needs or situations. That's completely valid. And it doesn't mean that the investment was bad in the first place. It just means you need the money, okay, for certain or specific reasons. So you need to sell to get the money to achieve certain goals and take care of certain things. So let me give you a few examples that are completely valid. Maybe you've hit your target in your portfolio. You needed $5 million to retire, and now your portfolio is sitting at about $7 million, okay? But if you don't sell now or soon, it could go from $7 million and fall back to $1 million. Now you're below your $5 million retirement threshold, and you're not just losing money, you're losing freedom and the opportunity to retire and walk away at that time. So now you can't retire. See, that's a completely valid reason to sell. Or maybe you've made life-changing gains, you put everything you got into the market, and you want to take your initial investment off the table. Or you want to cut your risk. That's valid. Maybe you want to reduce your exposure, to financially protect your family because you went all in, or just enjoy the fruits of your hard work and investments while still keeping a percentage in for the long term that you don't touch, okay, to still maintain exposure. Maybe you want to just put your kids in private school. It could be anything. Or buy a car, move to a new country, buy that house, take care of some personal debt or debt for a loved one or a family member, or just take care of a loved one financially, whether it's your parents, your father, your mother, family. There are many reasons to sell part or all of your portfolio. But the thing is, it's very personal, and it depends on many different factors. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that's not bad investing or bad decision making, okay? That doesn't mean you're foolish. It doesn't mean you're a genius or you're smart. It just means that you're doing what you need to do at a given time, okay? That's all it means. Now, I just want to say that this is just something I want to mention before we continue the video, but after years of sharing a lot of insights, analysis on financial markets and wisdom I've accumulated over the years, and even early gems like XRP, VLO, SHX, XLM, and drawing from my experience in banking and financial markets and the crypto space in general, I've finally decided to launch a private Patreon group with limited slots and memberships, and it will be specifically designed for people and investors who want a deeper and more exclusive type of content. So it will consist of macro crypto analysis, private video briefings of me speaking, research on where we are in the cycle, what I'm personally doing, digital asset research and industry updates, my personal portfolio, my long and short-term positions, when I'm selling, when I'm buying, and advanced strategies to navigate the crypto market, and a few more items as well. So just wanted to throw that out there because this is something that many people have asked me to do over the years, and the truth is I never got to it, and it will finally be here. I'll put the link in the description so you'll see that there. But moving on. Let's say you're not under any pressure to sell your investments, and assuming you don't need the money at the moment, okay? So you have no reason to sell because you don't have or a need for the money at the moment. So no personal reasons, no short-term needs. You don't have any urgent goals in the short term that you need the money for. Basically, you don't need the money and you're not swing trading. You're not trading the markets. You're a long-term investor. In that case, in my view, there's only one reason to really sell in this situation. It's that your investment thesis has changed, okay? It means you've revisited your investment, your prior thesis. You've re-examined your original thesis, okay? And the reason for why you invested. And now you realize that your conviction is no longer there in that investment. So that's a very valid reason to sell an asset. And it has nothing to do with emotions, or it has nothing to do with the merits of the investment, okay? It's strictly, well, it has everything to do with the merit of the investment. And the key question becomes, knowing what you know today, is this investment or crypto or asset still something that you would buy today? So if you didn't already own it, would you buy it now? You could think of it like that. And if the answer is no, then it's probably something you should not continue to hold. And maybe it is a good idea to sell it. But the answer, if it is yes, then maybe you should continue to hold it because it will continue to go higher if your thesis still remains strong on the initial investment. And that's assuming you don't need the money right now. So why would you sell if you still have strong conviction in the asset and you believe it will grow long term? So assuming you've decided to sell some or all of your investments at some point, Let's say you assume to do that. The real question now, to narrow it down, is can you do it wisely to get the best results? Because the truth is, yes, there are ways to dramatically improve your outcomes for your exit strategy and when you decide to sell. And this applies to whether you're investing in crypto, stocks, any asset. It doesn't matter. The same concept applies. So there are two key things to focus on here to improve the outcome for when you plan to sell, if you do. Number one is asset selection. So if your original investment was strong fundamentally, it's a sound investment, long-term growth potential, you're probably in profit, assuming you got in early or at a good time before the crowd. So now the decision is, it's not about cutting losses, it's about managing opportunity costs. So you got in early, you're up, your portfolio's up. You're not losing money if you sell now, but you'll do well, but you might walk away from future gains, okay? And the question is, are you okay with that? Is that something you want to do? Do you need the money now? So the next question becomes, can you improve the outcome of your exit strategy and selling to get even more returns, okay? And put the odds in your favor? And the answer is yes. The second point is cycle positioning. So this is crucial if you really want to have better entries and exits over time if you plan to sell. But since we're focused on selling, not the entering part, you need to ask yourself this: where are we in the market cycle? And this is important if you want to improve the outcome of your selling. Is the market overvalued, or is it undervalued, filled with fear? Or is the market overheated right now, driven by hype and greed and mass media, positive narratives? What's the overall market sentiment? What's the risk versus reward right now at a given time? So where are we today in the cycle? And the goal is simple here. You buy when markets are fearful, and you sell when markets are in euphoric, okay? When there is euphoria, to get the best outcome with your exit and selling points. And I know it's easier said than done, it takes good judgment and skills to do this correctly, but it's doable. But if you can learn where we are in the cycle and understand what truly drives asset prices and the markets, it becomes your most powerful tool, in my humble opinion. It's actually what me and my brother do. Your most powerful tool for knowing when to exit and putting the odds in your favor, okay? So even once you know where we are in the cycle, selling doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to sell everything if you do plan to sell. It's another point to keep in mind. For example, you could sell 20% or 50% and, or just enough to lock in that profit and let the rest ride the wave if you believe and have conviction in the asset. It's entirely personal. And the heart of the question is, at the heart of it is, should you be more aggressive or more defensive right now, or when you plan to sell at a given time? You have to ask yourself that. And I'm not talking about next week or in a couple days or in a couple months. And I'm not talking about 10, 15, 20 years either. I'm talking about, should you be more aggressive or defensive in the medium term? And that's, 2, 3, 4 years, okay? That's the medium term. Because you don't want to sell your investments at the bottom of a cycle, okay? If you want to improve your outcome. You want to sell at the top or near the top. So if you want to sell, ideally, near the top or in the chunk in the middle is where you're going to get the best results. And take crypto as an example. Altcoin season, I'm sure you're familiar with it, comes every 4 years. These cycles, I will tell you, aren't random. It's not magical, okay? They're driven by macro forces, okay? There's plenty of evidence to support this. Now, crypto bull runs are basically the byproduct of credit and liquidity conditions and credit creation, okay? Which eventually leads to retail and FOMO entering the market, resulting in mass euphoria. And that's when you get a blow off top or a top, okay? So when liquidity floods the system and credit becomes cheap in the financial system and in the economy, risk assets explode like clockwork. That's when altcoin season begins. And it always ends up with mass optimism, okay, positive sentiment and euphoria right before it crashes. Now this is in every cycle for every asset class in the world, okay? It's a repetitive thing we see. Now some assets, the cycle's longer, some are shorter, but it aligns with the broader macro cycles, okay? And they're all tied together. So tied to the debt refinance cycle. Now understanding these dynamics basically will help you exit smarter if you plan to sell. They're all connected. So in conclusion, I just want to let people know that if you plan to sell your investments, when you do, there's no perfect answer to if you should or when you should. It's personal, okay? But there are certainly smarter ways to think about it. And if you base your decision on your personal needs, your financial situation, strong asset selection, so you're in good assets, and then clear cycle positioning, knowing when you should get out, when it's overheated, or when you should get in, you will dramatically improve your outcomes if you plan to sell, okay? And not just financially, but strategically. And you got to be smart about it. And that's what I want all of you to do to make the most out of this market, short term and long term. So that's all I have to say in this video, and thank you for watching. Always stay sharp, and I will see you guys very soon. Thank you.